Parker Schnabel walked away from this ground, thinking it had nothing left to give, picked clean, burned out, and not worth another ounce of effort. But when Rick Ness rolled his excavator over the exact same patch, everything changed. Suddenly, readings didn't add up. Samples told a different story. And beneath the surface lay a layer Parker hadn't even touched, one hiding a discovery far bigger than anyone imagined. What started as a routine cleanup turned into the kind of gold rush dream miners rarely get to live. Gold appeared where it shouldn't, instruments spiked to impossible levels, and patterns flipped upside down. The deeper Rick dug, the clearer it became. Parker hadn't missed a small payday. He'd left behind one of the richest Yukon deposits in decades, a find that could rewrite Rick's season and Parker's legacy. Smash that like button and subscribe, because the next twist in this Yukon gold story is one you won't want to miss. This whole thing begins with a patch of ground Parker Schnabel wanted absolutely nothing to do with. An odd, silent stretch of permafrost that refused to behave the way his seismic data predicted. His guys drilled it, sampled it, scanned it, and every single result came back identical. Flat, lifeless, dead. Parker even said it straight out while standing on the drill pad. This ground feels dead. And when Parker's gut talks, he doesn't argue with it. He shut the entire cut down after scraping barely 6% of it, packed the gear, filed the paperwork, walked away, leaving that weird slice of Yukon frozen dirt behind like it was cursed. Months later, when Rick Ness returns to the territory trying to rebuild his disaster of a season, he keeps hearing whispers. Quiet talk about a cut Parker opened but never finished. Some of the old-timers insist that ground should have never been abandoned. Rick shrugs it off at first. Miners love telling stories about the gold that almost was, but the rumor won't die. It keeps coming back. Then the claim owner refuses to talk over radio, wants Rick in person. When Rick shows up, the old man spreads the paperwork across a dusty table and taps a tiny box that makes Rick look twice. Total excavation completed. 6%. That's it. That's all Parker ever touched. Rick asks the obvious question. Why stop there? The owner crosses his arms. Because something in that ground scared his whole crew. Not one of them would dig another foot. He won't explain what that something was. Just tells Rick if he wants it, he can have it. But he better know Parker walked away without a single second thought. So Rick signs, not because he trusts the warning, but because something doesn't add up. Parker doesn't abandon ground for no reason, and he sure as hell doesn't leave a test cut without squeezing every ounce out of it. Either Parker made a once-in-a-lifetime mistake, or something was hiding under that frozen crust that nobody detected. Rick wastes zero time. He drags his tech crew out and orders a full modern ground scan. And the second the first wave of data hits the tablet, the entire group goes silent. Nothing matches Parker's logs. This ground isn't dead. It's alive, erratic, inconsistent, filled with strange pockets and density shifts, almost like the Earth moved after Parker left, or the old drilling tech simply missed everything. Then the tech squints and points at something faint on the screen, a long, narrow void slicing diagonally through the cut. Thin but deep, too smooth, too straight. Not natural, not shaped by water, almost carved. Before Rick can even wrap his head around it, the gold signature spikes. Hard. The void isn't just hollow, it's loaded. Not with the scattered traces from a normal pay layer, but concentrated signals, tight and focused like something fed gold directly into that channel. Rick leans in. Is he staring at the start of a hidden pay channel, or just a glitch messing with the readings? Then the tech highlights one more anomaly: scattered metallic interference patterns in the soil. Impossible patterns. This part of the Yukon doesn't have buried junk. There shouldn't be any metal down there. Rick stares at the data, long, quiet, unsettled. The kind of stare that tells him Parker either missed something huge or avoided something he didn't want to touch. Rick decides he's not waiting for answers. He orders a small test cut. Nothing deep, nothing reckless, just one probing bite to see how the ground responds. The excavator takes its first scoop from the permafrost. Everyone expects low-grade gravel and nothing else. But when the load hits the wash plant, the concentrates tell a whole different story. The gold is coarse, shockingly coarse, flakes big enough to hear tapping in the pan. Mixed with them are sharp, angular pieces that look freshly broken, not smoothed by centuries of river travel. Coarse and angular in the same pocket? That only happens when you're sitting right on top of the source. Rick orders a second bucket from the same depth. This time the gold nearly doubles. That's not random. That's not luck. That's a pattern. A feed. Something pumping gold into this cut from below, and pumping a lot. Rick walks back to the scan. The hollow channel burned into his mind, and he knows this ground is hiding something Parker never saw coming. Parker's logs insisted this ground had nothing left to give. His tests said it was barren, lifeless, done. But the gold swirling into Rick's pan is telling a different story entirely. Something Parker never drilled into, never sliced through, never even realized was there, is feeding high-grade gold straight into the one corner of the claim he abandoned. Rick tilts the concentrates into the sunlight, watching coarse flakes glitter back at him like tiny mirrors. And in that moment, he finally understands why the old claim owner refused to spell things out. If Parker's crew was rattled, it wasn't because the ground was empty, it was because the ground was hiding something Parker didn't want to deal with. Something he never figured out. And now Rick is standing right on top of it. He studies the mysterious hollow streak on the scan. Metal-rich, gold-bearing, and far deeper than Parker ever drilled. And realizes he isn't testing leftover ground anymore. He's brushing right up against whatever Parker unknowingly walked away from. Rick orders his crew to ease forward. A careful, controlled push to confirm what the scan keeps hinting at. They widen the test strip just enough for the excavator to stabilize. And then the operator hits something. Hard. Not permafrost, not fractured gravel. Something dense, something compacted. He scrapes again. A thin crust of frozen dirt peels away, exposing a tightly packed gravel shelf, fused together like man-made concrete. Too perfect, too intentional. And definitely a layer Parker's crew never broke through, because the claim owner's notes describe a hard refusal at this exact depth. Rick slices a fresh face off the shelf and sends a sample to the plant. No one expects anything special. Compacted shelves usually choke off gold, not trap it. But when the results hit the table, the numbers don't rise. They detonate. The grade isn't slightly better. It's 10 times richer than anything this ground should hold. Rick just watches the thick flakes clink into the pan like someone dropping coins, realizing they've crossed into the layer Parker missed by a matter of inches. When he remeasures the shelf, he sees it clearly. Parker stopped right above it. Not feet, inches. He drilled down, saw nothing, got the same dead readings over and over, and never cut deep enough to uncover what might be one of the richest caps in the entire region. Rick kneels by the exposed shelf, running his hand along its strange angle. It slopes downward in a way that makes no geological sense. Normal gravel layers lie flat or curve gently. This one tilts hard, compressed from one side like something beneath it collapsed ages ago. And under the ledge, he sees it, a subtle sag, small but unmistakable. Rick orders the excavator to peel back the edge of the layer, following the tilt. The moment the bucket breaks through, the resistance vanishes. The machine drops into soft ground, far too soft for this depth. A cloud of pale, powdery dust bursts upward. It drifts through the cold air like volcanic ash. Rick swipes his hand through it and pulls back a grey smear laced with metallic sparkle. This isn't normal Yukon soil. This is ancient sediment, material shaped by water that flowed long before the modern channels even existed. The deeper they move, the weirder things get. The magnetite meter spikes so violently, the needle maxes out. Magnetite readings like this almost always signal extreme gold concentration nearby, the kind trapped when an old flow system gets sealed for thousands of years. Then the operator shouts. The ground under the excavator feels hollow. Not collapsing, just stretched thin. Rick checks the scan again. The entire hollow channel lights up, now completely exposed. A collapsed paleo channel, sealed under the compacted shelf, untouched by every previous miner on this claim. And its direction? Even stranger. Paleo channels usually follow predictable ancient slopes. This one angles directly toward the same drill line Parker used in his abandoned test. The channel ends just meters from Parker's final drill hole. If that collapse hadn't sealed the pocket, Parker might have hit the jackpot with one more probe, one deeper angle, one extra foot. Rick feels his gut tighten. He pulls Parker's old logs from the truck and spreads them across the hood. Parker's readings look perfect, clean, precise, consistent. But the dead zone Parker mapped out sits exactly where Rick is pulling rich gold by the bucket. That's not a misread. That's a total mask, a decoy layer. Permafrost creep sealing a live deposit under a perfectly smooth, frozen crust. Too uniform for Parker's older equipment to penetrate. Rick flips through the logs again and sees it. A shallow angle probe. Parker ran quickly at dusk, too shallow to reach the real layer, too rushed to give a proper reading. Rick retraces Parker's drill line on foot, step by step, until he finds the exact spot. The frost scars are still visible. He crouches and brushes the dirt aside. And then the truth hits him. Parker drilled here, exactly here, 3 feet above the real gold seam. 3 feet? 3 feet between Parker's dead ground and the richest ancient channel this claim has ever hidden. Rick stares at the soil, imagining Parker's drill bit, stopping just short, reading nothing, and forcing Parker to abandon the entire cut because winter was coming and the numbers didn't justify another day. Back at the cut, the excavator chews into the collapsed channel. Every bucket is heavier, darker, richer. Parker's tools, Parker's samples, Parker's instincts, every one of them failed him here, not because he got it wrong, but because nature built the perfect decoy layer right on top of the real deposit. Every jagged flake of fresh gold proves it. Using that confirmation, Rick pushes the crew to follow the drift, widening the excavation to trace the gold's direction. The deeper they chase, the stranger it behaves. Instead of thinning, the pay line thickens, swelling into a heavy band that gets richer the farther they move, not deeper. One of the crew picks a chunk off the table and turns it under the light. The fractures are sharp, fresh, nothing like river-worn gold. Something recently snapped these pieces free. Frost movement? A deep ground shift? Something ancient pushing deposits upward instead of burying them? And every clue points toward the low ridge Parker once wrote off as worthless bedrock, a nuisance he dug around without ever realizing what it concealed. When the excavator bites into that ridge, everyone expects solid frozen rock. But the bucket doesn't bounce. It sinks. The stone crumbles, revealing a chaotic mix of shattered rock, powdery sediment, and flecks of gold that glitter before they even hit the wash plant. The ridge isn't bedrock, it's breccia, an ancient rockfall, re-cemented over millennia, trapping whatever was caught inside. Rick inspects a fresh scoop. The pieces collapse in his hands, revealing rare crystalline forms, high-pressure structures that don't belong anywhere near shallow permafrost. These rocks are prehistoric, far older than the surrounding terrain. Something catastrophic created this. As they dig deeper, the structure becomes undeniable. Layers of re-cemented rubble funnel downward into a narrowing throat. Rick's geologist brushes the opening carefully, and when he finally speaks, he says it quietly, but with total certainty. This isn't a ridge. This isn't random rubble. It's the collapsed top of a gold chimney, a natural vertical conduit that once carried gold upward from deep inside the earth. When the chimney collapsed, it dumped massive concentrations of gold into the surrounding basin and sealed the throat shut under a hardened cap of breccia. Parker thought this ridge was worthless rock,